Ladies and gentlemen and children of the planet Earth, today you're in for a triple treat. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, a triple treat. Because today we're going to bring you a video of the Barge Dragon being prepped to leave New York to go to Cat Island, because Nicholas Cripps at Orange Creek Marina purchased Barge Dragon in 1999, and I captained the barge to Florida and then captained it to Cat Island to Orange Creek Marina for Nicholas Cripps. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at is Barge Dragon and the equipment that's on Barge Dragon at the month December of 1999. That's the staircase leading up to the pilot house, the acetylene tanks, the old telephone number, and the motor package with two 671s into a twin disc stern drive unit that came out of a tank from World War II. That's the motor package, and then it went into a Murray and Tagurtha 07 unit that was built in 1941 for a landing craft for the Navy landing apparatus type craft. Those are the motors that I was rebuilding some of the peripherals on in order to get it ready for the trip. And this time I'm going to go fast forward to the removal of the propeller. That's the prop, and that's my cousin Stephen and myself working on the propeller by creating via acetylene torches and welders a giant wheel puller made from 1 1/4 inch bolts that we had to apply pressure and beat the prop for approximately 2 hours in order to free up the prop by heating it and beating on it. And that's the wrench that I cut from a piece of 1/2 inch plate steel that Stephen's turning, that eventually we got the nuts off after banging on them, as I said, for 4 hours. And this is what a man does for a living, as opposed to you fucking sissies who sit in your rooms and play with your computer games and think that you have a tough life. That guy was more of a man than most of you could ever be or ever hope to be. Moving past into the next chapter, those are 7.5 inch diameter nuts on a 4 inch threaded base. We're going to move past that, and we're going to move past that, and that's the wheel puller once again. And this is a 2-foot wrench applying pressure evenly to the wheel puller that we actually fabricated that day to pull the prop. And in order to get the prop off, we had to beat on the prop with a sledgehammer from side to side and from top to bottom, as I said, for 4 hours. Now, we're going to go to the next chapter, and you're going to see the prop pop off of here in a few seconds. And that's with a 35-ton crane almost breaking 17-ton straps in the cradled position. The strap lifted 17 tons, and it was very close to stressing at that point. And there is the prop popping off. And now we're going to go forward once again. This is the crane on the barge with the Howard Beach Boat Club in the background, and this is Hawtree Creek Basin in Howard Beach, which was across the street from my house. And that's the barge. It's a 32 pontoon sectional barge that was built in 1940. And we are going to drive some pilings in that you are going to see a drop hammer come down onto the poles, pick the poles up, set them in place, and beat them into the mud between 15 and 20 feet for each pole. That is the pilot house that I lived in for 3 months and 2 days to bring it from New York to the New River, across the street from tugboats on the New River. And then once I got it to that part of the country from New York, which was 1,700 miles via the intercoastal, I revamped the barge and captained it over to Orange Creek Marina, owned by Nicholas Cripps, on Cat Island in the Bahamas, which was no easy task, doing it by myself and leaving December 3rd. I eventually got to New River right around March 5th. This was the gang box. This was the steps up into the crane, some extra ropes. I hit some storms. I am the gentleman. For those of you who heard about the rescue operation on December 13th at Little Creek in Virginia, that was Michael Fazio on Barge Dragon. That involved two 41-foot cutters, two 82-foot boats, a helicopter, and a couple of inflatables. That was me. Thank you very much. That happened on December 13th, 1999. That's the exhaust system. And in fact, we are going to move ahead a little bit so that I can show you what I look like at the age of 43. And I was talking to the new owner of the barge, telling him I was getting ready to leave. That's the gang box closed up. The trip is getting ready to start to take place. That's some extra stuff. That's one of the below the deck hatches that we stored batteries in and dry goods. Now this is the crane itself located on the barge, and we are in the process of picking up some sticks that were about 45 to 50 feet long that I was going to drop in for Stephen's dad in New York behind his house. Now I'll try to get through this as fast as possible. The crane is going to look like it's speed up because we don't have much time. But in fact, this is picking up the sticks, and then we're going to drop the bell on top of the sticks. This is all very dangerous work involving many, many tons of equipment. Plus the fact that you risk your life and limb every time you put your hands anywhere near these items. And this is in 16 times speed to let you know that this is not how I operate a crane. But in fact, I was at this point getting the bell hammer on top of the pole to slip it down over the top of the pole, and then to pick it up and then set the pole. And in the process, Stephen is lining the pole up for the vertical, and I was lining it up for the other vertical at 90 degrees to Stephen. And this is how we dropped the poles into the mud in New York via a 6,000-pound drop hammer. It didn't always go into where we wanted it to go because there were so many boats and debris under the mud that the poles would slip out of position. But eventually, you punch a hole through whatever it is that's down there for the last 130 years and get the canal, get the pole into the mud. That was my dad, Stephen, and myself working in the background. My dad was supervising, Captain Thomas Fazio from the local 25 Marine Division. He was a 100-ton master. He was making sure I did everything right. And that is the canal behind the crane, which was a 35-ton diesel Loran. And ladies and gentlemen, at this point, in case you missed any of that, I'm trying to get these things on into the computer to play them, but I'm going to have to purchase a program. So ladies and gentlemen, at this point I have to say thank you very much, and maybe one day I hope to have a bigger camera.